what contributes to a flourishing neighborhood. And you can't just focus on education without also thinking about health. And you can't think about health without also thinking about the family dynamics that are happening within the household. And you can't think about that without thinking about who controls the real estate. Is it mostly, slum landlords that don't care? Or are people moving to home ownership, or did they have a pathway to that? And you can't think about that unless you're thinking about whether they have access to jobs that pay a living wage. And so you have to think about all these components, but think about them through a Jesus lens. And that's what I really have come to appreciate in the team at Bridge of Grace.
Trust is the only thing, that was the biggest thing that lacked in this neighborhood. Neighbors would not in all case, not every case, but in a lot of cases, they wouldn't talk to their neighbors. They didn't know them. They couldn't trust them. But what happened was we tried to get them out of their homes, out around us, out around other people. And that was the key that made it successful.
And one thing I've appreciated about Javier and Bridge of Grace is their willingness to take risk. Their willingness to be unconventional and innovative in their approach to developing neighborhoods and developing individuals.
What I have experienced here is it's always about the people, the relationships. The first thing Javier wanted to do when I came on board was, can you just walk the neighborhood and let me tell you the stories of not what we've done, but of the people we've met. He pointed, this is Miss Lillian's house, and she's been in the community for 45 plus years, and this is so-and-so's house. And so you just knew this is what we're operating out of. This is about people and relationships and being present with people in all the ways that are important to people.
And I was on duty one day, and I actually saw him walking down the 1500 block of Pettit, knocking on doors. So I even circled around the block just to see, and he was going door to door, approaching people, trying to get them involved in the community. And that's the same philosophy that I had. It's like, get people involved. When I saw Pastor Javier doing that, I knew I was in the right place.
Our focus pretty consistently kept coming back to, what does Jesus want here? And how do we know exactly what he wants? What is he doing? It's not up to us to pull up our bootstraps and do some work that we hope Jesus will bless. I mean, it was our understanding that he's already at work here. And so we have to figure out what it is that he's doing and wants to do. And that's a faith perspective. So then that resulted in starting with a prayer movement.
We canvassed the neighborhood asking neighbors, how do you want us to pray? Because I don't live here. I don't know. You may have very different thought about it. Do you want us to put a sign in your yard of what you want prayed? And so many people said, yes. Will you pray for this? Will you pray for that? I'll never forget one of the guys we had talked to. He said, oh, I have something I want to put in my yard. Do you happen to have one more sign? Well, as God would surely had it, I had one left in my car with a marker. And I said, yeah, but we're starting in an hour, so I can't do the writing. He said, no, I'll do it. And so he wrote out the scripture, if my people will humble themselves and pray. And he stuck it in his yard, and he had decorated it. And so when we walked around that corner, you saw this sign. It was like, oh, we're joining you. You're an oak of righteousness already there. And we're just joining you and saying, yes, how do we fan the flame of what's on your heart?
He was so excited when he got the crime statistics. After we had bathed the area in prayer, and not too long after that, he got like hard data that says something was happening. I remember he was just so excited, and we both were. It's like, whoa. That went a long way in affirming that we were on the right track. This neighborhood was ready for turnaround, but it required faith to be put into action.
One of the themes that I've heard from Javier on a few occasions is start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. And I've seen that model with Bridge of Grace. When resources were low, they were still doing things. They were still dipping their toe in the water.
So going out in the streets, trying to win the trust of the people, finding the immediate needs, that was probably second. First was cleaning the streets up, meeting people that were sitting on their porches, just getting to know them, having them get to know their neighbors a little bit more, and learning what trust is all about.
Yeah, my first thought is that's the life story of Javier. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. That's what it looks like to be a faithful steward. And then if you combine faith with that, then the Lord is going to orchestrate things in that process.
Understanding the work that Bridge of Grace does in the neighborhood, and it's not just a simple thing like beautification, it's trying to systematically change the way that this neighborhood is looked at and the way that they feel about themselves. If you can develop strategies with housing and with public space, transportation, all of these different things that truly lift people up, then you're not asking for a handout, you're not asking for somebody to come in and fix things. You're able to fix those things yourself. And that to me, that grassroots, is where we started, but that grassroots effort of actually doing the work alongside people, that's really the lesson that I've learned.
I see my role here at Bridge of Grace is to be someone who walks alongside people, but that not ending there. It's what success is for me is when the people I'm walking with then walk with their neighbors and they walk with their neighbors.
They were providing opportunities for people to experience community. And I don't know that happened before. I don't know that happens in most neighborhoods, that there's actually events planned. There's places where you can go where you can experience community. You can actually meet your neighbors. You can be involved in a project or a process or an event or just a dinner where you get to experience the joy of knowing your neighbors. And to me, that's the value that they have provided in this neighborhood, and it seems like they just keep ramping that up. The new facility just enabled them to do even more than they did before. This new park is going to hopefully enable the neighborhood to have a new sense of pride that they didn't have before. And so I'm not sure any of this would have happened if it weren't for that space that they created.
To say there was one big strategy from the start, no, but as it grew larger, and Javier was always the dreamer. He would dream on what we'd accomplish, because he would learn what was going on, and he would say, we could do that here. And then he would put it in place, and then he'd energize the people around him, and then they would start moving down a path.
I think it's around Deuteronomy 30, where it talks about the Lord going before you, blazing the trail before you. So it's like you don't have to figure it all out. You just have to be a good follower and like fully yielded, just a yielded instrument. Yeah, there were times where it's like, oh man, I don't know if I can get that park up. I don't know if I can, if we can nail these 3 pallets together or what have you. And I remember by the end, and Javier being Javier, he gets excited. Oh my gosh, this happened. Oh my gosh. And I was to a point where I was like, of course. That sense of doubt that it could happen was just gone. It's like, yes, of course it happened. Of course we got the clinic going. Of course the park is going to come. Of course, it's God ordained. Of course it's going to happen. It's righteous work. We have faith. We're being diligent. We're being dedicated. We're being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, we're giving it our excellence. And he honors that. It was just like God just moved and moved and moved and moved, as long as we were faithful to show up with, with some hope, with an idea, with a vision, with a purpose, and a desire and a commitment to see that through.
As a mom of now 5 teenagers, the biggest thing that I want my kids to leave childhood knowing, other than that Jesus loves them, is that they are worthy of good things and they are capable of making change. And they do that because there are adults around them in the neighborhood who are willing to lead them, and that leadership isn't always loud. Sometimes it's that quiet leadership of, hey, watch me. Hey, come with me while we go to this community event. Hey, come with me to the neighborhood association meeting. Hey, I need a volunteer at Bridge of Grace. Will you do that? Well, I'm only 13. There's a place for you. I don't know of very many other places that are inviting our young middle schoolers and young high schoolers into participation to make change in their world. And that's what Bridge of Grace is doing. That's what Mount Vernon Park Neighborhood Association is doing. We are inviting our kids to make change. And the impact that that's gonna have is they're gonna go forward and still believe that they can make change. And whether that happens here in Mount Vernon Park or they take that with them wherever God leads them, that's my prayer. My prayer is that they would know that God created them with the ability to change their world for the better. And I can't imagine another place to teach them that does a better job.
We can cultivate a whole new future and a whole new normal for a new generation of people just by being faithful servants. And I think that's kind of the message of Bridge of Grace.
I don't know too many organizations that have the city of Fort Wayne, several churches, men's group from churches, individuals, businesses, all rallying around this part of Fort Wayne.
Anything can happen. Change can happen. Things can get better. The trajectories we're on, the inertia we already have doesn't have to stay the way it is. Like Obama, the audacity of hope. It is like our former president said, that, you know, the work that we've done makes us realize that we can have the audacity of hope, this audacious, big, bold hope that comes to fruition. In my experience at Bridge of Grace was realizing that audacity of hope. I just preached to myself. I need to go do some things.